Yo, what's up guys? My name is JT and I'm going to show you guys how to install this structure along with scenery from start to finish right here on Model Railroad in the Southwest. Don't forget to like and subscribe because this is going to be a good series. Okay, so here's the area that I chose for the concrete plant. And this was in the original idea for the layout, was for the concrete plant to be in this area. And I changed that a few times. I think if you remember in one of my older videos, I decided to put this huge ugly mountain and it was just gonna look ridiculous. And then I decided to do some scenery and I got some few really good suggestions from you guys on what to put here. Although I really wanna put that ready-mix plant here because I think it'll just add some really good interest to the layout. So what I've been doing is I recently just installed this curb right here on the parking lot for the truck stop and I think it looks really good. It's 60,000 square rod from Evergreen scale models, and I just painted it with some chalked gray paint, exactly the same color as what the parking lot's painted, and then I just super glued it to the surface of the parking lot. So you'll notice these big chunks of foam here, and that is because I'm gonna raise this up 1 inch so that it'll differentiate from the parking lot where the truck stop is, and it'll just add a little bit more interest to the layout instead of it just being a surface on the same surface as the truck stop. So what I've done is I've cut a big piece of foam out and it's going to go right on top of those pieces of foam, and they're just like a bunch of spacers. Another thing you'll notice is there's these big chunks of foam here as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a retaining wall there. Yeah, I know I have a ton of retaining walls on my layout, but you know I have to because of the space and to make it look a little bit more realistic. So anyway, I made another retaining wall and it's going to go exactly right here and it's going to be glued to the side of the foam, and I think it's going to look really good there. So also, after all said and done, when the scenery is getting started, I'm going to add some parking lot lights right here and right here, maybe a few over here to light up the parking lot for the truck stop, and I think that's going to look really neat. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece of foam on, and then we're going to glue the retaining wall on, and let's see what it looks like. Alrighty guys, so here's the retaining wall. It's all installed and it's looking really good. I really like the way this wall came out. I think it looks good behind the truck stop and near the parking lot. Also up here I installed the foam and I glued it in. I actually put some screws in so I don't have to put stuff on top of it, so I could still work around it instead of having to put something on top of it and it'd be in the way. But yeah, I'll go ahead and show you guys what else I'm working on here in a bit. Okay, so it's been several weeks since I finished this structure and also several weeks since the last part of the video you just saw. If you're interested, there's a complete video on how to build this structure and how to weather it. It's on my channel. Go check it out if you're interested. So here are all the vehicles that I plan on using for this scene. There are 2 cement trucks, front end loader, dump truck, and this truck and trailer and grader are really not supposed to be here. I just put them there because I think they looked cool. So anyway, nothing's really changed since the last part of the video you just saw. I've been really busy lately and I'm gonna start working on it today. So over here there's this void area. I'm gonna add another piece of foam so it's level with this portion, so that I can add some stalls for gravel and some dirt and whatever stuff that they use for concrete and stuff. So I'm going to start working on that now. And also I'm going to start working on the retaining wall. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'll be back shortly to show you guys how that's coming out. Okay, so the retaining wall is finally done and I think it came out really good. So I also added these stalls. They're not attached to the wall just yet because I'm going to do some stuff to them. But I made these stalls for the materials that they use to make concrete, so sand and gravel and whatever else they use to make concrete. So this entire thing is made out of styrene. I used 30,000 sheet styrene just like that, and I also used some 100,000 square pieces, and that's pretty much what I made this entire thing out of, and also that plastic weld right there. So that's pretty much it. I'll show you guys what this looks like after it's all painted and how I'm going to detail and make it look like real concrete. Okay guys, so the wall's all finished up and it's looking pretty good. So I used some Rust-Oleum chalked aged gray spray paint to paint up this wall. I love that color and I like that spray paint. It has really good coverage and I think it just works really well. So if you want to paint up some concrete, use that one. It's really good. I use it for all the concrete on my layout. So as you notice, this is really not the same kind of retaining wall as the rest of them on my layout. So this one is a little bit different because it doesn't have the pilasters separating each concrete joint or concrete wall section. So what I did is I marked lines every 2 inches to create one section of the wall, and I also put some tie bolt detailing on each section of the wall. Those are the 4 holes that you see on the wall. And the tie bolt detailing, that's created in the molding process when they're making sections of the wall. So I wanted to add that to this wall in order to make it look more realistic and more believable. So I also used the tie bolt detailing for the those stalls you see right above the wall. Those are for the concrete material and all that stuff. So in order to make sure that every tie bolt was perfectly measured and it was perfectly done, and I used a jig, or I guess you could call it a stencil. Those are those pieces of paper right above the stalls. That is a cardstock. It's a little bit of a thick cardstock, and I measured it perfectly, and I made some holes, and then I just put it over the wall section, and then used that pen in order to make those joint detailing. And that pen is a very good pen. If you're interested, that is a very fine point pen. It's 0.15 millimeters. You can get that at Hobby Lobby. It's a little bit of an expensive pen, but it's really nice. It doesn't smudge and it's waterproof. It's a really good pen. But the way I got every wall section perfectly measured and done right is I used that 123 block and that little ruler. Came out really good. I really am happy with the way this wall came out. I was a little concerned at first because I just didn't think it was going to be believable, and I didn't think it was going to look like a good looking wall, but it came out really good. So let's take this over the layout and see what it looks like. So I'm currently working on this portion of the cement facility scene, and I recently just put in this piece of foam here, and I just glued it down with some hot glue. A lot of people don't like hot glue. I use it all the time. I like it because I don't have to wait for any other type of glue to dry. Hot glue just dries immediately and you have no issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the back of this wall to the back portion of this piece of foam, and just put some hot glue behind it and just press it up against the back of it, and it'll dry up pretty quickly. Now the hot glue is not hot enough to melt the styrene. It's perfectly fine and perfectly safe if you have any concerns about the styrene or anything. If you're going to do something like this in the future, it works really well. I've used it all over the layout and never had an issue. So let's go ahead and install that wall and see how it looks. Okay, so before I install the retaining wall, what I'm going to put in is a spacer. So it's just going to be a foam spacer that I'm going to put in right here, and I'm going to apply that with hot glue, and I'm going to use that to bring the wall out from the riser a little bit forward. And I think this is cut to maybe about 3/4 of an inch, not quite the full inch. And it's just to give it more realism so it doesn't look like it's just backed up against the back of the riser. So I'm just going to use some hot glue and attach that real quick. So I'm just going to put in this riser right about there. I made a mark, if you see with the pencil there. That's just so I can see where I need this riser to be. So I'm just going to hold it down just for just a little bit of time so that it has some time to fix itself. Doesn't take too long, about a few seconds. So I'm going to put in this wall and we're going to glue that in. So I want the wall to be in this position right here. So I'm just going to grab some glue and put it in back of the wall here. So I'm going to get the rest of the wall put up and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So in this area, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install those stalls that are for the sand and gravel and whatever that they use to make concrete. And where I'm going to put them is every area that I have an expansion joint here on the wall. And I don't really quite remember how wide I made these sections, but about 2 inches, I think, somewhere around there. So the way I'm going to install them is I'm just going to use some hot glue and put them in. So let's go ahead and glue them on. So I'm just going to carefully place them where I want them and let them dry up, and they're good to go. That is my youngest child that you can hear on the background. He's watching Blippi. He loves that show. So I'm going to get the rest of these put in and we're going to see what it looks like. Okay, so here are all the stalls installed. So how these are supposed to work is there's a front end loader that's supposed to come in and drive in and go ahead and scoop up all of the stuff that's going to be put into the hopper on the structure. And then in order for it to get filled up, is a semi truck will come in, back up, and drop its load in there. And that's pretty much how it's going to go. So let's go ahead and see how this entire wall looks and see how it looks. Alrighty guys, so here's the wall, and it's looking really good behind that structure. I think this wall came out very nicely. There's the dump truck and the front end loader doing its thing. So that's going to be pretty much it for this installment. In the next video I'm going to show you guys how to do scenery, including plaster cloth, and how to make a structure or a landform like the one that's right there, right underneath UP 1989. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that, and also some rock work, and to just bring this whole scene all together. So stay tuned for that video. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any questions, put it down below. If you guys have a long question, go ahead and send me an email. That's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later. Take care and keep it between the rails.